John Foster's gaff, who we're led to believe was responsible for the murder of Freddie, a good pal of Cook's. So now we're saying about 2-3 years has passed. Somehow he's ended up in the north of the country, so we find him in Manchester, although I'm not too sure we've labelled it and described it as Manchester, so to the untrained eye it could be anywhere.
I don't know where Cook's been. I suppose he's been on the run.
Trying to keep his head down and be very anonymous, and had gone up north and, as I say, just try and live hand to mouth really.
To fill in the blanks of those few years, it's like you could spend like probably a whole episode just talking about what's happened as opposed to what's happening right now. He's actually this sort of broken version of the Cook that we know and love from before.
Maybe he's done a good job of keeping himself sort of under the radar a bit. I'm not going to rule out that he might have been in the ship like, a couple of times from here and there. We were sort of toying with the idea that maybe he picked up some form of drug addiction. I just think he's been mulling about somewhere and you know, just avoiding the law. He's obviously had to keep himself low profile. So as far as I'm concerned, we're picking him up just before things start to get mental again. When we left, we was under the illusion that we'd all come back together for a film. So I hadn't put Cook to bed at all. So I'd kept him sort of nearby, or it was about maybe 4 or 5 months ago when I started preparing for him, but I think that was more out of excitement.
Yeah, I mean, for the actors it must be quite hard to go back on themselves, to do something that they've done before, but hopefully with these scripts we've been able to give them something new to do, even though they're playing an old character. He seemed really up for doing it, coming back to the character.
It was a no-brainer. I didn't even need to think about it. I was just waiting for them to confirm it to me, because it's a character that I helped develop, and I've never been as in tune or as, I assume, influential with the devising of a character and creating him, and I've never been as hands-on before.
I reckon that if we do the first, it's like page 9.
Actually, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
It's more like someone jumped out at you than like you're actually in police mode. What was really interesting about this is that Skins, we revisit Skins, and all of these characters are now 20-year-olds. They're now in their 20s, and the scripts reflect that, I think, and the stories reflect that. And so like the characters are like, they're maturer. The nature of the stories is different. It's sort of grown up with the actors, hopefully. So I think like in that respect, it's like quite an exciting opportunity to say, here's a character that you played, and it's like, rather than, we're not going to go back and you're not going to be the character that you were completely, it's who they've grown up to be. And so there's like an evolution there, and I think that's really exciting.
Coco! Charlotte. What happened to your face, man?
Got beat down.
The last one that did this is dead, right?
The episode's called Rise, and I suppose that kind of talks to the idea that Cook is somehow coming into being himself.
He's becoming a man now, and it's sort of similar timeline to myself and all. Luckily, throughout the whole time I played Cook, I've always been a little bit ahead in terms of maturity or whereabouts you are in your life. I've always been slightly older than him, so I was learning things a little bit prior to actually portraying him with Cook, which has been really helpful. I'm really fortunate. It was a stroke of luck, that. So, like I said, we grew fond of Cook watching him as a young man, as a late teen, and now we've got him where he's got to man up and he's got to be a bloke. And is he going to keep running around head loose, or is he actually going to stay alive and prioritise himself?
I've wanted to write Cook as a drug dealer in Manchester for years now. I've always thought it seemed to make sense for him, you know. And I was told by friends of mine about drug dealers they met who just turned up in cars and dealt their drugs and then were on their way. And it seemed like an interesting and cinematic way to position Cook as one of those people.
We were only in there for 2 years. We do the college sort of generation, or that timeline, that time span is the most that it can allow for. So I've always found as well, in hindsight, that looking back, reflecting on Cook, the story was a full circle, but there was still a lot to be left for interpretation. I was receiving a lot of questions from viewers, fans and what have you, that people didn't really find a resolve, there was nothing final about it. So whether or not that was deliberate, to the point where we get to now and then we re-explore it, but like I said, because we've only got 2 years, it's sort of predetermined, so he develops very interesting characters, and I myself, anyway, personally, I'm fascinated to see where they go. Just very privileged to be able to portray one of them for him.